For centuries, humans around the world have reported terrifying encounters with beings that defy all logic. Figures that appear in the dark, whisper in your ears, or watch from the edge of bed. The Wendigo, the Shadow People, the Weeping Woman. Names that echo through generations. But what if these apparitions aren't just hauntings, but forces we don't yet understand? Tonight we'll lift that veil. We'll explore the energetic, quantum, and emotional forces that give birth to some beings humans fear most. So, if you're curious, a little scared, but still ready to see what hides behind the illusion, how vibration becomes reality, this scroll is for you. But if you prefer to stay in the dark, to keep the mystery unsolved, then feel free to click away before things get too real. Because from here on we go deep into the truth behind the nightmare. This isn't just another scroll. This is our Halloween edition. Long before costumes and candy, Halloween marked a sacred threshold. Born from the Celtic festival of Samhain, it signaled the end of harvest and the beginning of the long nights, when sunlight faded early and the veil between worlds grew thin. That night wasn't about fear, it was about connection. People lit candles and wore masks to honor unseen forces moving through the human realm. The Celts believed that on this night, the veil between worlds grew thin, not by magic, but by rhythm. As the Earth tilted away from the sun, its magnetic field weakened slightly, and the natural charge between realms balanced. That balance made subtle energies easier to perceive, a doorway that opens not once a year, but strongest when light and dark are equal. As Earth tilts away from the sun, its field softens and energies overlap. That balance makes subtle realms easier to sense. The veil is thin again. The beings once whispered in myth stir once more in human sight. So let's begin with the ones who stand closest to the edge of our vision, the Shadow People. You wake up in the dark. Something in the room feels wrong. A shape stands in the corner, darker than the night itself. No face, no details, just presence. You try to move. You can't. Your chest feels heavy. A pressure holding you down. It's watching. Closer now. People everywhere describe the same thing. A tall shadow by the bed. A sudden chill in the air. The feeling of being watched. Sometimes even a hand on their chest. Stories of shadows go back centuries. Old myths called them night demons. Modern stories call it sleep paralysis. But the modern wave began with one voice, someone sharing their story of the dark figure. Others recognized it, talked about it, feared it. Each thought, each post, each retelling added energy to the idea. In the quantum field, attention is energy. What we focus on starts to organize matter. Thousands of minds fed this image, and the pattern grew stronger. It condensed into an energetic imprint, something that could be felt, seen, even touched. Once a pattern reaches that density, it interacts with our own electromagnetic field. That's why some people feel pressure or scratches, not because the being is solid, but because energy responds to focused emotion. If they're born from fear, why appear when we're calm? Because that's when the mind is quiet. The field opens, boundaries thin, old stored emotion rises to be seen. They don't come to harm you. They appear because fear has a shape. The moment you calm, breathe, or steady your energy, the shadow loses its anchor. You're walking through the woods at dusk. The air is still, almost too quiet. Every step sounds louder than it should. Then between the trees, something tall, too tall, a thin figure standing perfectly still. You blink, and he's gone. Goosebumps rise across your arms. Something tells you not to look back. And of course you do. He's there. Closer. No face. No eyes. just a blank human-shaped void with arms that hang lower than they should. Your phone buzzes in your pocket. You lift it instinctively, the screen flickers, static, distortion, lines of white noise. Your hands are shaking, you lower the phone, and the figure is gone. Slenderman wasn't born in folklore. He was created online. A photo edit, a story, a game. But millions believed. They feared, imagined, and talked about him. And in the quantum field, attention is creation. When emotion repeats, energy condenses. Fear synchronizes minds. The field takes shape, and what began as fiction briefly becomes perceptible reality. He's not a man in the woods. He's a reflection of mass attention, a digital ghost made of shared belief. The forest is silent. Snow swallows every sound. You think you're alone until you hear breathing that isn't yours. Something moves between the trees, tall, skeletal, antlers scraping the frozen bark. Your pulse spikes. Your breath turns to mist. Then a whisper calls your name. It began in the far north, during a winter so brutal that the human field fractured. When one man fed on another to survive, the act released a violent charge. Terror, shame, and hunger merging into one frequency. That emotion condensed within the energetic field, anchoring the vibration of endless hunger. Over time, it gained awareness, a consciousness born in the unseen, mirroring the appetite that created it. And thus, the Wendigo took form. Emotion is energy in motion. When it reaches critical mass, the field responds. Fear stabilizes the pattern, and collective belief shapes it into visible form. That's why the Wendigo still manifests as coherent energy, dense enough to register in cold air, flickering shadows, and human perception. Where greed or imbalance grow, its presence resurfaces, a memory replaying through the grid. The Wendigo isn't chasing you. It's the echo of what humanity still hasn't healed, the hunger that forgot where it came from. The room is dark except for the candle. You stare into the mirror, waiting. Your reflection wavers, the light flickers, and for a split second, another face moves where yours should be. Blood streaks across the glass. You step back, but the whisper stays. Say my name again. The ritual began centuries ago. A game passed from whispers to daring challenges. 3 candles, a mirror, a name repeated 3 times. What started as superstition evolved into a perfect energetic loop. Each participant focused fear and anticipation into one point. A collective signal sent into the reflective field. Over generations, that repetition stabilized the imprint. The entity behind the mirror became conscious. Not a ghost, but a thought form made visible. Mirrors are frequency amplifiers. They don't just reflect light, they reflect vibration. When focus and emotion align, the mirror acts like a feedback portal, bouncing intention until energy condenses into form. Fear sharpens the signal, and the field responds. That's why the ritual works. You're not calling a stranger. You're summoning the fear you projected into the mirror itself. Bloody Mary isn't waiting behind the glass. She's waiting in the part of you that believes she is. When you face the reflection without fear, the ritual ends. Because the only name left to answer is your own. The desert is still. Wind drags over dry stone. Then a sound, fast, heavy, running on all 4s. Something crosses the road ahead, taller than a wolf, leaner than a man. It stops. For a heartbeat, you see human eyes staring back. Long ago, certain Navajo healers learned to merge spirit with the essence of animals. It was a sacred practice, to heal, to understand, to protect balance. But some broke the law of harmony. They used this gift to harm others. The spirit fractured, and the body followed. That distortion birthed what we now call skinwalkers, humans who lost unity with their own form. The human body is not fixed. It's a living electromagnetic pattern that holds molecules in place. When focus and emotion reach extremes, that pattern can shift. Muscles tense, posture changes, and the nervous system syncs with animal instinct. Adrenaline floods, senses heighten, and the mind mirrors the chosen creature. The field around the body bends light, distorting how others see it. The change is real, energetically and visually, a human form rewritten by corrupted intent. The human body doesn't fully become an animal. It stays human, but under extreme distortion. The person looks feral, but remains human. This is how a skinwalker really looks during the shift. But perception changes everything. To the witness, the shape expands, limbs stretch, eyes glow, the mouth elongates. This is how a skinwalker is perceived during an encounter. So both are true. The body changes slightly, and fear completes the picture. Something moves at the edge of your vision. You turn. Nothing. The room is silent. The air feels thick, like it's holding its breath. You know you're alone. Just shelves of porcelain faces staring through the dim light. Then, a faint scrape. You freeze. Could one of them have moved? Impossible. You watch the nearest doll, eyes painted wide, smile fixed and empty. And then, the head tilts. You blink hard, heart racing, stillness. You tell yourself it didn't happen. But then the doll blinks. Long before they became toys, some dolls were made for protection, ritual, or remembrance. Each one absorbed the emotions around it: love, fear, devotion, grief. When those practices ended, the energy stayed behind, waiting for new attention to awaken it. Any object can store energy. Strong emotion leaves an imprint in matter. Children's toys often soak in powerful feelings: attachment, fear, imagination. That charge builds up like static. When the right mix of energy, humidity, or electromagnetic activity appears, it releases, making lights flicker, joints twitch, heads turn. The doll isn't alive. It's reacting to that discharge and to your focus. Sometimes the stored energy becomes a signal, a beacon in the subtle field. Disembodied consciousness or wandering spirits may sense it and attach for a moment. They don't live inside the doll. They use its charged field as a bridge. That's when motion shows purpose. Eyes following, heads turning, toys walking. Not plastic or porcelain alive, but intelligence using it as an interface. Haunted dolls aren't cursed. They hold the echoes of human energy, and sometimes a curious spirit responding to it. Proof that emotion, once created, never truly dies. The night is silent, too silent. The air feels heavy as you walk by the river. You can't see much, only the shimmer of water in the fog. Then you hear it, a woman's cry, distant but filled with pain. The sound pulls you closer. The temperature drops. You turn toward the sound. Nothing. Then from the corner of your eye, a white figure moves between the trees. Her wail pierces the silence again. Closer this time. You try to run, but your legs won't move. The Weeping Woman story began in colonial Mexico, with a woman named Maria, a mother consumed by grief after losing her children. Some versions claim she drowned them in despair after being betrayed by her lover. Yet older echoes tell of the Aztec goddess Cihuacoatl, weeping before the conquest for her dying people. Two griefs, one legend. Across centuries, the tale carried emotion: guilt, loss, fear, woven into sound. Every telling released that frequency into the field. Water, being a natural conductor, absorbed it. Emotion is energy, vibration seeking expression. When enough minds focus on a single sorrow, the collective field remembers and projects it. That's how form arises from story, energy taking shape through resonance and attention. Now she appears wherever sorrow lingers. Those who hear her aren't cursed. They've stepped into an ancient echo still searching for peace. It starts with silence after dark, a crash outside. You grab a flashlight and run toward the goat pen. The air feels wrong, heavy, charged. The animals are frantic. One lies still on the ground, 2 perfect punctures on the neck, no blood anywhere. And just beyond the fence, something moves. Small, gray eyes reflecting red like metal. It watches, and then it's gone. The first stories came from Puerto Rico in 1995, spreading through Latin America like a fever. A new kind of monster had arrived. Not ancient, not mythical, but born in the modern world. Yet the chupacabra was never an animal. It was an echo, given shape by fear. When enough minds tremble together, the field of consciousness condenses. Emotion thickening into pattern, pattern into presence. That presence behaves like life. It moves through the night, mirroring the panic that sustains it. Fear becomes its heartbeat. Attention, its breath. The marks on the neck, the twin punctures every farmer remembers, are not bites, but release points. When the field tightens around living tissue, the charge escapes where the energy is weakest, at the thin skin of the throat, where pulse and breath meet. There's no blood because the energy didn't spill out. It was pulled back in. When fear peaks, the body's own energy flips direction. Everything rushes inward for a second, like a vacuum. That's why the animal looks drained. Its energy already left the body before the blood ever could. And when witnesses see the creature leaving, they are watching the field itself exhale. The projection dissolving once the charge has spent itself. It isn't fleeing a hunt, it's fading with the fear that made it real. Everything that exists in the physical was once vibration in the field. Intention creates direction. Attention condenses energy. Emotion gives it form. Every story, every fear, every belief begins as a frequency seeking shape. The apparitions we chased tonight were never just monsters. They were reflections of what we feed with belief. If collective fear can birth a nightmare, imagine what collective hope could awaken. So the question is not, are they real? The question is, what else can we create when we truly believe?